Miserable years of the worst Tory government in modern times. The best this Prime Minister can offer the British people is things can only get worse. Well, for him and his calamitous opinion ratings, that's probably true. But why does he think he has such an unprecedented fall in his popularity? Is it his attacks on the pensioners? Is it leaving children in poverty? Is it the re-emergence of Labour cronyism? Or is it because his austerity is even worse than the Conservative variety?
It was a very exciting sight. Keir Starmer was simply destroyed during a meeting of the House of Commons. Pete Wishart humiliated him in front of everyone and Starmer didn't know how to react to it. He also got a good slap on the head from Rishi Sunak. Let's figure out what happened there.
Firstly, it will give people basic dignity at work, and secondly, it will help grow our economy, something that the last government absolutely failed on for 14 long years.
The state of our economy is very deplorable right now. After several years of struggling with the consequences of Brexit, coronavirus and wars in the world, the economy is at catastrophic levels. Prices of goods and services are rising. We are forced to save on food, entertainment and much more in order to have at least some money. Nothing has changed since Starmer's arrival, and he justifies his inaction by saying that the Conservative Party has created a lot of problems that are very difficult to cope with.
When he talks about security at work, once again, it's one rule for him and another rule for everyone else. But I know that not everything or everyone has survived his first 100 days in government. So can he confirm that when he promised not to raise income tax, national insurance or VAT, that commitment applies to both employer and employee national insurance contributions?
By the way, Starmer has recently begun to hint at a possible tax increase. He said that the budget, which will be presented on the 30th of October, will be quite painful for the population. He was most likely hinting at the abolition of the tax status for non-residents and the fines paid by water supply companies for polluting reservoirs with untreated wastewater. In the election manifesto, the Labour Party has already promised to tighten tax breaks for residents. However, he assured us that income tax, value-added tax and national insurance fees would not be increased. The promise not to raise taxes was key in Labour's election manifesto, and they failed to keep it.
Mr. Speaker, as he well knows, I'm not going to get drawn on decisions that will be set out. We made an absolute commitment in relation to not raising tax on working people. He, of course, was the expert's expert on raising taxes. And what did we get in return for it? We got a broken economy, broken public services, and a £22 billion black hole in the economy. We're here to stabilise the economy, and we will do so.
During the coronavirus, the situation deteriorated as expected. Service sector enterprises were closed, demand for passenger transportation fell, and unemployment increased. But the most important shock then was the rise in energy prices. And then mysterious explosions occurred on both branches of the Nord Stream, which made their operation impossible. Against this background, our authorities have decided to completely abandon Russian energy sources. There has been a big wave of bankruptcies of energy companies due to high gas prices. The departure of several market players at once significantly reduced the supply. Then a radical tax cut was introduced. England had to spend its accumulated gold and foreign exchange reserves to support the exchange rate. This almost led the country to a global catastrophe. The government's plans are both a bad economy and a missed opportunity.
Speaker, I don't think even Lord Ali is buying any of that nonsense. But I'm not asking, Mr. Speaker, I'm not asking about the budget. I'm not asking about the budget. I'm asking specifically about the promise he made to the British people. So let me ask him again, just to clarify his own promise. Does his commitment not to raise national insurance apply to both employee and employer national insurance contributions?
I almost fell over laughing. Yes, maybe Keir Starmer can tell all his fantasies to his best friend Ali and he will always support him and even give him money, but I no longer believe a single word he says. How can you trust a man who got caught up in a corruption scandal?
Set out our promises in our manifesto. We return with a huge majority to change the country for the better. sector, and I stick to my promises in the manifesto. But I notice it's question 3, and it hasn't yet welcomed the investment into this country. We've had in recent months £8 billion from Amazon for jobs across the country, £10 billion from Blackstone's jobs across the North East, £22 billion on carbon capture jobs in the North East and the North West, 500 million, Mr. Speaker, for UK buses in Northern Ireland. While we're investing in our economy, what are they doing?
Because of Rachel Reeves' statements, the country risks being left without a project with an investment of £1 billion. We are talking about a project to expand an automated container terminal in the cargo port of London. A Dubai company was supposed to invest in it, but now this decision is being reviewed. The reason was a number of statements made by Reeves to the management of PO Ferries. The company got into a scandal 2 years ago after laying off 800 Britons in favour of foreign nationals in order to reduce production costs. Reeves recalled the incident a few days ago, calling it an example of outrageous manipulation of the labour market and called for a boycott.
I'm very happy to welcome investments that this government negotiated, but when it comes to his answer on tax, Mr. Speaker, businesses across the country would have found his answer just about as reassuring as Sue Gray did when he promised to protect her job, Mr. Speaker. So let me turn. It's no wonder confidence is plummeting on his watch, which he didn't mention, but turning to another commitment. Before the election, his Chancellor said changing the debt target in the fiscal rules would be tantamount to fiddling the figures. Does he still agree with the Chancellor?
Britain is facing the biggest crisis in the last 70 years. The national debt is approaching 100%. The government will have to face much more difficult tasks than any British government has faced since at least the 50s. And you will have to choose between cutting spending, building up debt, and raising taxes. It's very bad. Public services are barely working, taxes are at historically high levels, and the Conservative and Labour parties are limited by their specific promises to reduce the national debt. I don't think Starmer can do that. His main goal is not to help the country and people at all, but his own profit.
This is literally the man who was in charge of the economy. 14 years they crashed the economy. And what did they leave? A £22 billion black hole in the economy. Unlike them, we won't walk past it, we will fix it, and it's only because we're stabilising the economy that we are getting the investment into this country.
Labour is groaning from debts inherited from the Conservatives. Rishi Sunak was criticised at the beginning of his premiership for having holes in his shoes. After his exile, they talk about a hole in his country's budget. If the shoes, how it was said, were full of holes exclusively for the public, so that the millionaire Rishi seemed closer to the working people, then the hole in the budget is the most real. Starmer attacked the most defenceless category of citizens, the elderly. Mothers with many children were advised to wait until there is money in the country to increase their benefits. Perhaps their children will grow up by then. Britain understands that the world is being rebuilt and is trying to get into its leadership. It is very difficult to admit that the empire no longer exists, but there is an island with problematic migrants and high electricity prices.
15 miserable years of the worst Tory government in modern times. The best this Prime Minister can offer the British people is things can only get worse. Well, for him and his calamitous opinion ratings, that's probably true. But why does he think he has such an unprecedented fall in his popularity? Is it his attacks on the pensioners? Is it leaving children in poverty? Is it the re-emergence of Labour cronyism? Or is it because his austerity is even worse than the Conservative variety?
The child poverty rate in the UK is very high. If we consider Europe as a whole, the UK is among the 10 countries with the highest level of child poverty. In the list of the G7 countries, we are exactly in the middle. Things are worse than in Germany and France, but better than in Spain and Italy.
I remember when they used to sit here. It's a long way up and there's very few of them, so I don't think we need lectures on popularity.
Yes, MP. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Starmer has already survived several scandals. At first, several deputies ran away from him, outraged by the reduction in subsidies for heat for pensioners. Then the Prime Minister's assistants quarrelled, and he had to shuffle the apparatus of the barely appointed government. But the most unpleasant thing was the scandal with Lord Ali. People voted not for him and Labour, but against Rishi Sunak and the Conservatives, because they lost faith in their ability to govern the country and solve Britain's two main problems: falling living standards and a crisis in the public health system. Starmer could ignite us with faith in the future, mobilize them for achievements, but for this he lacks charisma. What do you think about this video? Share your opinion in the comments. See you.